to create an advantage
Okay.
for business owners to take benefit of our platform.
Okay.
So when we put that in a statement and translated it to too many African languages, Amfani, Amfani, Amfani kept coming up. So in Hausa, sometimes they call it Amfani with the M, and Yoruba is Amfani, and another language is Emfani. But it's all from the same, origin word of opportunity, advantage, and benefit.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So tell us, what the major operation of Amfani is?
Thank you so much, Martha. So Amfani is, we call ourselves a renewable energy brokerage company.
Okay.
It's four words that has a plethora of meanings,
Okay.
right? But the objective at the end of the day is we want to bridge that affordability gap
Okay.
of renewable energy solutions
Okay.
for business owners. So I say business owners broadly. It could be micro businesses, it could be small businesses. We're speaking about agriculture today. It could be our farmers,
Okay.
it could be a grocery store, whoever it is that needs energy for electricity
Okay.
to go about embarking and ensuring their revenues. We're here for them.
Okay.
So that's the crux of what Amfani is.
All right. Now let's talk about how the renewable energy can be married to agriculture, because a lot of people will be wondering, as I was wondering until I got to find out how some of these things. But how can you merge this in both sectors?
Okay. There are a number of ways.
Okay.
If you start from our farmers, for example, and the farmers, as we all know, they're the real heroes. Farmers would need irrigation systems.
Okay.
They will need refrigeration systems. They'll need other farming solutions that need powering.
Okay.
In the north, where we are right now, where sunlight is just abundant, 6 to 8 hours of sunlight every day, we could use solar panels for them.
Okay.
Right. That is one way we can make renewable energy work.
Okay.
And at the same time as well, from a wind solution, there are ways where people can actually install small wind turbines on farms
Okay.
to make sure that the farms are doing two things: producing and at the same time also renewable energy provision as well.
Okay.
Right. So there are a number of ways. I mean, there is agrivoltaics where you have some crops where you actually just install solar panels on the crops, right? And you're achieving two things. First of all, you are producing your crops, you are keeping them under a shade for the crops that need to be kept under a shade, and at the same time, you're producing power.
Okay.
Right. So for our farmers, for agriculture generally, electricity is key, as with anything in life anyway. And it's critical for us to find ways to make sure they are benefiting from it, which again is the meaning of Amfani at the end of the day.
Okay. Benefit, help,
Help.
all goes together.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk a bit about okay, you have something to say to add to that?
No, it's okay.
All right. Now, we are experiencing a number of crises, especially in Nigeria, as in food crisis,
Crisis.
particularly. There are certain things I would not imagine using my money to buy before, like for that amount. Like, that's ridiculous. Why am I buying like a basket of tomatoes for 20, 30, 40,000? It's very unreasonable. To hear as at this time now.
Yeah.
So we've had lots of these things happen here and there. And I hear that you guys do a number of things in ensuring that people get more, a lot of people key more into the agricultural sector. Can you tell us more about it?
So Martha, it's critical for the growth of an economy is driven by the youth, right?
Okay.
And it's driven by how much internal gross domestic product is being generated.
Okay.
And for that to happen, people need to have jobs.
Okay.
And if people cannot be employed, with a little push, they can be employers
Okay.
by themselves. So we don't restrict it to agriculture particularly, but we focus on youth, we focus on women, we focus on those that, because of maybe economic issues, might not be able to seek for jobs. How do we help them? And to put it into perspective, so I don't box this conversation into particularly agriculture. Let me box it into general job generation and employment
Please,
generation.
by all means.
In the renewable energy sector, I mean, Africa is a continent of 1.3, 1.4 billion people. We were doing some research earlier in the year, and we realized that the number of jobs in the renewable energy industry is 320,000 in the whole of Africa.
Okay.
120.
And we know even the governments, the key players in the energy industry in Africa, we've agreed that, okay, the grid may not necessarily solve all the problems.
Yeah.
So what are the off-grid solutions that we need to bring into play? So for that to happen, it's only wise for us as a company to try and increase that 320,000 to something higher,
Yeah.
right? It's going to benefit us on the long run as a company, but more importantly, it benefits the country and it benefits the continent. And in any other region in sub-Saharan Africa, it benefits it greatly. So we have a capacity building program that Abiola, I'm sure, will speak more about that shortly.
Okay.
We have a capacity building program that we are working together with a few international partners that are going to help us create some sort of a schedule of trainings
Okay.
for young people. We're still trying to figure out the criteria into how we're going to do that. But our objective is to make sure that there are more people in this space that can actually build renewable energy solutions and end up building their own companies and end up providing solutions and power to
future.
farmers, to agricultural, anybody across the agricultural value chain, really.
All right. So tell us about the program.
Oh yes, absolutely. So we actually building this program, putting this together. It's more of a capacity development, training of some sort.
Okay.
We have some international partners that are backing us up on this.
Right.
Pretty much the program is supposed to empower both youths and also women.
Okay.
Right? Because we believe that these people are supposed to be the lifeline, to for economic growth in this part of the world, right? So what we've done so far is, we already have these partnerships on ground.
Okay.
We are already, just last week, we also discussed with some local NGOs as well who are also interested in partnering with this, partner with us on this initiative, right? So we are trying to see how we can get them to really understand, empower them on, different trainings on, solar installation, on different, the different segments of, the renewable energy industry, pretty much, right? So so we've been able to put together like a small schedule, the different components of the training, and we are trying to see how we can refine all of this. Before the end of the year, maybe towards early next year, I think we should be in a very good place to start rolling out.
With this. All right. I want to ask about the reception of all of these things, because again, it's one thing to try and help people out of a situation. It's another thing for them to accept that it's actually help. Because if you listen to a lot of Nigerians speak, they have, I don't know, maybe PTSD from all of the promises that have been made them that has not been kept. So they are very skeptical when it comes to opening up their minds to newer possibilities and stuff. But let's hear you. What has been the acceptance rate of all of this, but with the farmers in rural and urban communities?
Yeah, to be honest, the acceptance has been good, right? We actually had several conversations with some of the potential beneficiaries of this initiative, sometime last week. We've been in Abuja for quite a bit, so we've been talking to people just to get their perception on all of this. And to be honest, I believe that they've actually been expecting initiatives like this to come up be a lot before now, right? To buttress on this a bit, right? So last week we got into one of the less developed parts of Abuja, like one of the suburbs here. Myself and a colleague, one of my colleagues, right? So we discussed with these people. We see that solar is a big deal in this part of the world, right? We are not harnessing the potentials of the sun as much as possible, right? And a lot of people have been able to see the potential in terms of what they can actually make, how they can earn a living, through solar installations and all of these things, right? As a matter of fact, there's no wait list yet at the moment, right? But based on the partnerships, like I said, we have some local partners who are interested in this. We're trying to tie into this, just to help with bringing people up and all of that and empowering people, right? I think it has actually been overwhelming so far, and I know that by the time we start, the support and adoption is going to be as deserved as it should be.
Okay, before you go further, I have a question.
Okay, go on.
This is a very huge project, and in as much as one self-development is concerned, it's something that is more like you don't have to force people to do that, but it takes a whole lot of work for it to reach the kind of audience that you want to have. That's another thing. So I'm just going to ask, what is the possibility?
What's the medium? How are
What's
you
the
reaching
medium?
out?
How are you going to do that? How do you intend to achieve these goals and get to the audience as required?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
That's a great question. Well, so to answer that, at the start, I said we're a renewable energy brokerage company.
Okay.
So being a broker has helped us develop a lot of organizational partnerships.
Okay.
We have a few partnerships with some universities in Nigeria, in Kenya,
Okay.
in Italy at the moment. We have a few partnerships with some institutes focused on women and youth. Not
Okay.
particularly on this, but
Okay.
on some other things we're doing
Okay.
right now. And what we've done, or what we intend to do, is to leverage those partnerships.
Okay.
Right. There are some people that have more impact on last mile delivery, as we call it. They are closer to the people
Okay.
than we are.
Okay.
Right. So there's no point reinventing the wheel. And Fanny, as a company, is built on trust. So once we are able to develop trust with our partners, we'll lean on our partners' expertise to get us to the last mile. Right. So that's our focus really. We are not saying that we're going to do it ourselves. That's why what we're doing involves a lot of stakeholders. A few universities, like I mentioned, a few impact organizations, like I mentioned, a few of us internally. We just reviewed the first set of educational schedules that we think we're going to work with.
Okay.
Once we are done with that, we take it to the communities.
Okay.
Because it's one thing to want to achieve something and do something, and then you're doing it in the four corners of the room without
Yeah.
speaking to the
Yeah.
eventual benefactors of
Yeah.
it. Right. So we know that by the time we're done, we'll do some sort of a market validation. I mean, as with anything that we do, we'll take it to the communities, engage community leaders with our partners, and then figure out where we go from there.
Now, I remember Martha had said something about people's involvement, or something she said about
Acceptance.
acceptance and all of that. Now, and she also mentioned about the fact that a lot of this sort of project have been coming up.
Yep.
You understand, and people sometimes are